All right. So, what I'd like to do now is I'd like to spend a few minutes analyzing how we see romanticism in our everyday world today. And we see it all over the place. And I hope that you start to pick up on this as you watch commercials, as you watch movies. The last lecture, I briefly mentioned the romantic hero, and we're gonna watch a Subaru commercial, and then we're gonna watch a little chunk of Star Wars Empire Strikes Back. Where in both of these, we're gonna go through and examine how romanticism is infused into our American imagination right now. And as we continue to build on this, you should start to see how our environmental imagination or wilderness imagination or nature imagination is harnessed and formed and created from our love and situational perspective that's shaped by a romantic context. So here we go. So this is the long form of a commercial. There's some ads at the end, and so I'm going to switch to the other to both the long form and the short form. But it's a family riding through a forest, and they're trying to break free from the city to find inspiration, to find spiritual divinity in the wild. And I want you to think about some of the iconic images I showed in my last lecture as we watch this. So here we go.
It's easy to.
All right. So the younger, more youthful, childlike daughter is mesmerized, enamored. She's showing that childlike intuition, that childlike awe of the natural world. As the parents look back, they're watching the older daughter who can't seem to get her head out of her phone and to remove herself from nature and the wilderness, or remove herself from urbanization and enter that journey from the city to the country into the natural world.
To shrink into your own little world. Especially these days. Especially at this age.
Getting wetter.
So they're caught out in a storm, representing the sublime, or at least some component of the sublime. And as we watch the transformation of the older daughter who is struggling to pull herself into this romantic journey from the city to the country, or from civilization to nature.
That's why we got the biggest Subaru ever made.
I think it's here.
Where are we going?
Okay, this is where we're going to switch, and we're going to watch the ending on this one, which is going to be right about here. Make it full screen. Here we go.
It's a big, beautiful world out there.
Wow. See that?
Sometimes you just need a little help seeing it.
Presenting the all-new 3-row Subaru Ascent. Love is now bigger than ever.
All right, so here we clearly see what's going on with these romantic tendencies, and how the daughter eventually removes the headphones, pulls herself out, and then in those last photos where we have the last images where we have the mountains and we have the family all together, the mother smiling, the mother realizes that this divine spirituality has finally touched the older daughter, who has been seemingly overly, her innocence has been lost previous to this experience, and she reunites with her romantic tendencies that are inspired directly by her experience and awe of the natural world. So romantic through and through. We see the same type of rugged individualism, or the romantic element of rugged individualism. It's not exactly the same as this one, but if you watch a pickup truck commercial or an SUV commercial, and the pickup truck or SUV seemingly goes off road, there's no direction. The truck's just following the intuition of the driver as it crawls its way up this mountain and comes out on this big giant vista. And that's romanticism through and through. It's a romantic commercial. Many of our SUV commercials associated with freedom and rugged individualism all build upon those. So now let's watch this clip from Star Wars. And we're going to start early on. This is Empire Strikes Back for those Star Wars junkies in the class. And this very first scene in the movie, I want you to pay attention to how the Empire represents civilization and urbanization and structure, rationality, faulty rationality. Here we go. Oh, one thing that I also want to add here, sorry for the constant stopping and starting, but one thing that you can see is that space presents, in much of science fiction, presents itself as the ultimate sublime. You know, space itself is death to the individual human, but at the same time, this awe-inspiring opportunity for exploration and intuition and rugged individualism. Space and our conception of science fiction within the American imagination is constantly and continually wound up in this really interesting dynamic between the Enlightenment, the rationalization of the Enlightenment, or the rational thinking of the Enlightenment, with the awe and the overpowering influence of space, the dark void, the sublime. Sublime to a giant floating urban civilized creation. So then, as we jump forward, as those of you who know the story, Luke Skywalker ends up going to look for Yoda, although he doesn't know who Yoda is. He's going to look for this Jedi Master who still lives, this 900-year-old Jedi Master, otherwise known as Yoda. He doesn't know who Yoda is. And when we encounter Yoda, he's this nearly mythological creature, being who has childlike, innocent tendencies, who's crouched within this dark, supernatural swamp environment. Again, that beauty and the sublime, the childlike innocence, the movement, the hero's journey within the romantic hero's journey from urban to the mythological knowledge housed within a natural setting. And so here we go. Oh, let me get it. Sorry.
Still, there's something familiar about this place. I don't know. I feel like...
Be like what?
Like we're being watched.
Oh, wait, put your weapon. I mean you no harm. I am wondering, why are you here?
I'm looking for someone.
Looking? Found someone you have, I would say. Hmm?
Right.
Help you I can. Yes.
I don't think so. I'm looking for a great warrior.
Oh! Great warrior. Oh. Wars not make one great. Oh.
What I want you to pay attention to here is how George Lucas did this really successful job of baking American romanticism or romanticism in general, but then oftentimes the Americanized version of it, with Yoda being this old mythologically driven character who also at the exact same time in this scene coming up has this robust childlike innocence. It's fascinating and very well done and purposefully done to tie together versions and interpretations of romanticism.
Put that down. Now we. Hey! It's my dinner.
How you get so big eating food of this kind?
Listen, friend, we didn't mean to land in that puddle, and if we could get our ship out, we would, but we can't, so why don't you
Dare
just...
not get your ship out.
Hey, get out of there!
No!
Hey, you could have broken this. Don't do that. Oh, you're making a mess. Hey, that.
Fine, or I will help you not.
I don't want your help. I want my lamp back. I'm gonna need it to get out of this slimy mud hole.
Mud hole, slimy, my home this is.
R2, let him have it.
Fine.
R2! You move along, little fella. We got a lot of work.
All right, you can watch the whole movie or all of these clips on your own, but you get, I think you're getting the idea. And so now I'm going to fast forward to a point where Yoda is training, and Yoda, imparts all this wisdom and knowledge on Luke, and then right around here, Luke needs to go into the cave, and Yoda has him hold back his lightsaber, and he goes into the cave, and in the cave, a little spoiler alert here, but he encounters a vision of Darth Vader. And I don't know how many of you know Darth Vader, the story of Darth Vader, but Darth Vader, this all black, powerful, death inducing, death fearing character with no face. Darth Vader is the embodiment of the sublime. He is the sublime incarnate. And we'll watch and then we'll analyze. All right, super powerful scene. If you're considering within Star Wars, powerful scene, also within our study of romanticism, because here Luke faces the sublime, and we know the sublime is always a view of our own mortality, the power of nature, the power of the universe, and Darth Vader representing this. Luke defeats the sublime, or at least confronts the sublime, depending on how you view the scene. And when he does, he sees his own mortality. Now, there's also the fact that Vader's his father, which we know, is a big deal within the original Star Wars trilogy. But he faces the sublime only to see and to encounter the reality of his own mortality, which is exactly like walking up to that cliff face and looking over that cliff face and getting that tingly feeling, because you know that right there in front of you is your own mortality and the very limitations of your own life. And so when Luke crawls into the belly of the earth in an almost mythological Zeus-like fashion, Zeus was hidden in a cave. We encounter one sublime mortality. And Star Wars, through and through, just about every. I could analyze ad nauseum until you were all sick of me. I could analyze Star Wars and tease out the robust aspects of romanticism that were very purposefully baked into by Lucas into the story and into the original construct. I personally feel like it's one of the reasons why the original Star Wars series was regarded and tapped into an American artistic well that was far deeper than maybe some of the other ones did. And maybe the other ones will over time, but at least at their original inception. So there you go. Analysis of how does romanticism apply to our contemporary era. I hope this provides some insight.